Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass.
Hi everyone, welcome to another video on the JayBee
Hello.
and Milly channel. We're as always joined by Smash.
Hello.
And Rhianna.
Hi.
And today we have the absolute pleasure of being able to speak with Kate Melton again.
Hi everybody, I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining. So I guess if people are new to the show, if they're new to watching this, we did do an interview before. It's a purely audio version, so if there are questions that you kind of want to see answered that aren't done so in this section, the chances are we probably asked it in the previous section, so I'll be leaving that in the description down below. And this will be a relatively, Curse of the Lake Monster-centric interview. And so I guess something that movie is quite renowned for is its guest star. So you had characters and guests such as Richard Moll appearing as Ruggins in The Lighthouse. What was working with some of the guest stars in, I guess, both the movies, but more Curse of the Lake Monster like?
Yeah, we were really fortunate. Brian Levant, the director of both Scooby Doo The Mystery Begins and Scooby Doo Curse of the Lake Monster, he has a very long career in Hollywood, a very long and storied career. And so he's had the opportunity to work with a lot of really amazing actors and actresses throughout the years. And I think a lot of Scooby-Doo Curse of the Lake Monster was he called in a lot of favors. Like he called a lot of people, Richard Moll, for example, we were watching the Flintstones movie with our son a couple weeks ago, and we're like watching, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know him. I'm like, oh, that's Richard Moll. Like, so it's always funny to kind of recognize, because there's so many people in Curse of the Lake Monster. Richard Moll was lovely. Marion from Happy Days, she's best known from Happy Days. She was amazing. And then of course the late Jonathan Winters, who was just amazing to work with. And it was such a cool experience because he was such a legend, and he was really up there in age at that time too. I think he was in his 80s when he did that film, but he was just like sharp as a tack still. Nichelle Nichols, she was also in the film. She was just a lovely woman. And Ted McGinley, who I just adore, who played Uncle Thorny. He was a great person to work with. So yeah, it was just a really cool, especially as a young actor, getting to work with all these legends in our, like, what felt like our little movie,
Like JayBee was saying, with the Curse of the Lake Monster, there's so many amazing things from, the people on the screen, even down to the outfit design. So one of the things we said in our Mystery Begins review,
I know, I heard.
Apart from some of the outfits were a bit kind of different, whereas for Curse of the Lake Monster, they almost went so kind of back to the beginning, even doing the callback to, Fred with blonde hair and Daphne in the original outfit as well. They were very traditional. And do you remember if that was a conscious choice, that they wanted to kind of almost take a step back to the originals of the second movie?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that also goes into the design of like my hair. My hair was different in the second one. It was more that sort of classic Daphne red. But I did listen to the first episode when you guys talked about the outfits, and I want to just chime in on that really quick. So I agree. I think the costumes are I'm going to say specifically to me, okay, are a lot more Daphne, real to Daphne, and also just a lot more pleasing on the eye. And I'm gonna break this bombshell right here, right now. I probably shouldn't say this. I was I was 15, 16 when I did the first one, and I was very developed. And I think a lot of the wardrobe choices, if I'm being honest, were to try to downplay the fact that I was quite developed for my age. As we were on Cartoon Network, it was a kid's movie. JayBee looks like his head's gonna explode. It was a kid's movie, so I think we tried to kind of downplay that a little bit. Second movie, I think whatever wasn't working about the costumes, I think they knew. I know that I've vocalized wanting to have a little bit more of a say in the wardrobe for the second film. And I think what we got, it just turned out, it was perfect. I think the wardrobe was great. We were all so excited to do the scene with Fred and Daphne in the mannequin scene, because we were so excited Fred was going to get his wig and, have that little nod to the classic. And we both really, Robbie and I both really, really were so excited for that scene. So that's a very roundabout way of saying that, yes, the wardrobe, I think it was a conscious decision. And we had different wardrobe designers on the second film as well. So it was a different department completely.
Interesting.
Still speculating upon that aspect of things when we reviewed Curse of the Lake Monster. When really I probably should have done my due diligence before reviewing that one to see if it had changed around a bit, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we had a whole new hair and makeup department. We had a whole new wardrobe department, and most of that not because the first team didn't do a great job, but the first film we shot in Vancouver, the second film we shot in Los Angeles, and the surrounding areas. So they brought in LA local hires for those two departments on the second film.
Nice. Well, that's exciting. So, Daphne, our fashionista, do you have any favorite outfits?
I love the dress that I wear in the big country club party scene, that like purple.
Yes.
I love that dress.
I think we all commented on that.
Yeah, I love that dress. Love that look. I had like my little headband. I felt so cute that day. Also, I really love the outfits in the musical numbers, specifically like the 70s, outfit with like the flowers and stuff. What else did I love? I've gotten backlash about this online. I thought the little purple dress with the little belt was adorable. I thought it was very Daphne. Some people don't like it, apparently. I thought it was cute. I thought it was very fitting for her character. So yeah, the tennis outfit was cute. I mean, they really killed it in the wardrobe department on this one. Although I do remember the tennis skirt was extremely short and difficult to move in, and it was just a lot of like, okay, Kate, like watch yourself, like be careful, don't you're running from a monster, but like don't let your skirt fly up. It was a lot of that. So that was something that was definitely challenging with the wardrobe, because I was running, I was doing all these chase scenes, and they always had me in like heels, and I fell a lot Oof. And hurt myself often.
Oh gosh. Like I remember there's been other shows and movies where the actors and actresses have been put in like heels, but then when they're running, they get put in trainers, but people always notice. And that's the one part of acting that seems dangerous.
It's a height thing, so if you've got me in heels in one scene, you can't then switch me to Ugg boots or flats for a different shot, because the continuity is not there, right? Like they'll be able to tell that I'm now 4 inches shorter, and I'm already tall, like I'm 5'8", so I'm already pretty tall. So like next to Robbie and stuff, they had to have that sort of height balance.
Yeah, I think that's something where like the 2002 movie maybe didn't go to benefit you, because with Sarah Michelle Gellar, there's a scene where they'd let her do it in trainers, and they'd not cut it properly, so you can see she's wearing white shoes instead of the really high boots.
There you go.
That's still in the movie, so
there you go. That probably had an effect. I mean, I did definitely in between takes, I would change out of my shoes, but I remember Brian Levant at one point being like, it was when we were filming the shot in, I may have said this to you guys last time, but we were filming the shot of us running down the hill in like the final musical number, and I'm in boots this big, and Brian's like, why do we have her in 4-inch heels? She can't run, she can't do anything. I twisted my ankle. It was terrible. So yeah, but I'm also just a very clumsy person to begin with, so that doesn't help.
So early on in the movie, there's a sequence which I think we all remember really clearly, where Mystery Inc. is at a barn being chased by the Scarecrow. And this scene was meant to be apparently quite a bit longer compared to the version that we got. So do you remember any lines of dialogue or potential scenes that were cut from this?
It's funny, I was just actually watching that clip right before we got on. So there was a whole scene that was cut. So, we're up in the hayloft. Hayley and I are up in the hayloft. We're talking, and then I fall out of the window. And then after that, there was and I mean, this has been years, so my memory may be failing me, but I'll do my best. There's a scene where we come out of the barn and the cops are there, and they've got Jonathan Winters, who I believe his entire part is cut from the film, right? I don't think we even see Old Man Frickert. He's Old Man Frickert, and he's been the one dressed up as the Scarecrow. So we never actually saw the Scarecrow, but we did have a very classic, I would have gotten away with it too if it hadn't been for you meddling kids and your dog. Like we got one of those moments, and it was really great. And he was just so funny, and was improving and throwing dialogue at us, and we were just kind of, running with it. I really am not sure why they cut that whole scene. I remember being told that it was a technical thing, or they cut it for time or something along those lines, but it is such a bummer that we don't get to see that scene, because it was great.
I'm really
It's a
disappointed
shame.
about that
Yeah.
because that whole sequence was actually an original episode of the new Scooby Doo
Yeah.
movies where Jonathan Winters was in it.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I want to see this, but
I know,
oh
and I
well.
wish that they had at least put the deleted scene, on
Right.
DVD, something
Mhm.
along those lines.
We should not only get the Gosnell cut, we should get this cut
The
as well.
Levant cut.
Yeah, the Levant cut,
That would be
I would, please, I would love to
brilliant.
see it. If
the
you get it,
winner's
let me
cut.
know.
Especially for like an anniversary special. And I guess it would be a shame if it was cut for time, because almost one thing you can hear about Curse of the Lake Monster is maybe they gave away the twist a bit too early with the kind of start teasing the Velma reveal, whereas it would have been kind of cool to have the opening montage
Yeah.
be the kind of scarecrow scene with the the barn burning down. That would have been
Yeah, I
pretty
really
interesting.
wish they would have kept that. That was a great scene. I was very disappointed that was cut.
The kind of end of that scene that we do eventually see is, of course, Daphne falling from the top to be caught by Fred. Now, that was obviously, well, it looked to be like some height, and I imagine that probably some stunt doubles were used, but how exactly was that whole scene? How did it play out from a production perspective?
So if I recall correctly, the hayloft that we were in, that was a real barn. So we were actually up there and there was like a window. So if I recall, what they did was they put me in a harness, they put me by the window, and then they had me kind of do the like, whoa, that bit. And so I did that, and they cut to the, me actually falling. That was not me. Okay. I did not do that. And then I'm trying to remember, they had me on a wire, and I had to kind of like, it was very difficult. Okay. You have to have a lot of like core strength for this. Okay. Which I do not. And so they had me like on a wire, they would, in a harness, they'd bring me up, and then I'd have to kind of like lift my legs up so that I would be in the position to fall into Robbie's arms. And Robbie kind of stood there. We were in front of a blue screen or green screen, and somehow, I don't know how they got a good shot out of that, because I was struggling. Like, I was not prepared for the amount of physical strength it takes to be hanging up on a wire and like lift your legs and like, keep them there. It was very difficult. So somehow they got a good shot. I just remember that I was very sore after that. Trying to do all that ab work.
It sounds like it took a lot. I mean, it's weird, like just before reviewing Curse of the Lake Monster, I think more like for the first time consciously I went through the bonus features and everything, and it's kind of a shame because when we interviewed David Newman a couple of months ago now, he had pretty much next to no memory about his time working on Scooby stuff, but there's like a section in the behind the scenes little montage there where you see him rocking out to some of like the songs that are played in this movie, and it's almost like, well, how do you forget that? But I imagine, as you say, it's just been so long ago. But in our last interview, you mentioned that some parts of producing the music and everything for the movie involved going to David Newman's house. Mm-hmm. So was the studio that we see in like the behind the scenes, was that in David Newman's house, or was there like multiple locations?
Yeah, that was at his home. It was like a detached area of his home where the recording studio was, and it was a really fun experience. I'm not surprised he doesn't remember it. It was a million years ago. He's worked on such huge projects since then that I'm sure that kind of, especially like we were probably very difficult to deal with, because Robbie and I, not singers, told them that we're not singers. The musical numbers weren't even in the script when we got the script. And then like week 2 of production, they send us a new script and we're like, what's going on? And Brian's like, yeah. I decided we're going to add some musical numbers. And he probably regretted it, because like not a singer, not a dancer. Okay. Those are 2 things that I do not do well. So I just remember when we were recording, Robbie and I were both just like, oh my gosh, like this is torture. Like we're not good. And of course, Hayley's an incredible musician. Nick has a pretty good voice actually. But yeah, we were horrified. So I'm not even, you can hear me a little bit in the backup vocals on the song, but it's very minimal because again, not a singer. So David Newman had to really work his magic there.
I mean, it certainly looks from the behind the scenes that even if you don't think that you're a good singer, which I think we'd probably disagree from what we heard in the movie, but it certainly looked like everyone was having a lot of fun. Do you have any highlights from recording in the studio or anything?
Yeah, we were having a lot of fun. I just remember, that it was it was so cool. And we were in this really well-known and famous composer's home. You know, there were awards all over the walls. And, you know, at that time, the four of us were pretty close, and we just had a lot of fun. Like, we just had a lot of fun. And, you know, I wish I could tell you more. Of course, Hayley comes in and she's like amazing. And so we're all like, great. Like, we're gonna look terrible next to Hayley. But yeah, I just remember it being really fun and joking around and just having a good time, you know?
Great. Well, like we say, it certainly looked fun to watch, and it's, you know, good to hear that you had fun as well. And, you know, also my next question was getting into the movie again. I think one of the scenes where we first see the lake monster is at Uncle Thorny's party, and that's, you know, a really fun scene as well. Do you remember how the lake monster was created when we see that silhouette? Was it like a CGI image, or did they have like some sculptures? Because I know from speaking to you before, they made some really interesting sculptures of Scooby, and we saw that behind the scenes as well. So I was wondering if they kind of did the same for the monsters.
You know, I don't know 100%. What I would think, and the way that my memory best serves me, is that was the actor, you know, because we did have an actor in a lake monster suit. It wasn't the full, it was green screen, you know, it was like made of the green screen material, but it was sort of the basic height. He was like 6'7" or something, this guy. So it was like really tall, and it's kind of bulbous like the lake monster is. And my best recollection is that was probably Carrie. Carrie was the actor's name, back there with the suit on, creating that silhouette. That's what I want to go. All I really remember about that day of shooting is me trying to hide underneath the table in this like tight dress, trying to like crouch down and not being able to really move for a long time. That's my biggest memory from that day.
It sounds like you had to have such an uncomfortable time recording compared to everyone else.
I did. You know, the outfits were definitely restrictive, but I liked them. So I was good with it, you know?
Yes, as long as you still enjoyed it.
Exactly.
So you actually might have answered this already, but I'll ask it anyways. So with the country club and the lake, you know, complete different setting from the first film. And as you said, you know, the first one was in Vancouver, this one more so in LA. So was this country club and the lake and everything filmed in LA?
Yeah, so the country club is a place called Chevy Chase Country Club. It's in Glendale, California, and they film a lot of things there. You know, if you guys have ever seen Bridesmaids, for example, the scene where they're at Lillian's engagement party, that was all at the same country club. So they filmed quite a bit of stuff there. So we filmed all the interiors of the country club. We filmed the tennis court stuff there. And then the lake was a country club in Malibu, and I do not know the name of it. It was in Agora Hills, and that's kind of where we had more of like the lake setting. We also shot like the scene at the beach, some of the scenes at the beach, like the lighthouse. And when we find Velma on the beach and she's got the warts and all that, that was at a state beach in Malibu called Leo Carrillo State Beach. So that was the ocean.
Okay.
So it was definitely fun moving around, you know, because really for the first film, we were at the school. We were at a abandoned mental hospital in Vancouver, very spooky. It's called Riverview. I think it's called Riverview, very scary place. We were, you know, we didn't move around that much. We had like maybe 4 main locations that we kept going back to. And, you know, we were in a studio for like Shaggy's house, stuff like that. And then this one was so fun because we were constantly like, oh, okay, now today we're on the beach. You know, today we're hanging out at this beautiful country club. So it was really fun to get to kind of move around and explore the Los Angeles area, and also shoot in places where other big and well-known productions had been shot.
So with that, I have a quick little side question.
Yes.
The beginning of the movie, did you guys go to Vancouver for a minute to do the school scenes, or was that just kind of like green screen?
That was a different school. That was
okay.
That was in Studio City, California, Studio City Van Nuys. That was a middle school that we shot that. But yeah, totally different school, which is funny because it actually does, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess it does kind of look similar. But yeah, that was a totally different school entirely.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. We're gonna have to add all these locations onto like because we're like committing ourselves to one day just like go to America and just do like a tour of live action Scooby Doo locations. So we're gonna have to
Yes.
try and get into an abandoned mental hospital somehow.
Guys, just come here. LA is only 6 hours from me. Let's go.
Oh,
There
yeah.
you go. There you go. Yeah. There's a lot of great stuff. And the abandoned mental hospital in Vancouver, that's, yeah, if you ever get a chance to go, that was a very spooky place to be, for sure.
I actually kind of want to say, I think Supernatural filmed an episode there, and apparently there was some really spooky things happening when they were
Probably.
filming. So
It was really creepy. There's underground tunnels underneath where they used to use to transport bodies and patients and all kinds of stuff. And so like, I remember my mom was like, we got to go into the tunnels. We got to go. I'm like, woman, like I don't need to get murdered by a ghost today. I'm a fake ghost hunter, not a real one.
Oh, I could propose there.
What?
Because it's a
No,
Scooby Doo
romantic.
location. It'll be great. It'll be great.
Oh my
I'm all
How
for that.
romantic. You're lucky, Lady Milly.
Oh.
So more back on the movie. Kind of a highlight of this movie is that cool scene we see of them like going scuba diving, and you know, we see some underwater shots and everything. Do you remember how those scenes were kind of done?
Yeah, so that was quite a process actually, because we all had to go, except for Hayley. Hayley didn't have to go because I don't think Hayley scuba dives in the movie.
Yeah.
So Robbie and Nick and I had to go take scuba classes and get certified. So we all went together to like Venice Beach to this like pool with an instructor. We all learned to scuba dive, and I hated it. I hated every minute of it. Like, I'm not a fish. I don't belong down there. Like, I belong on land. Like, I'm not a fish, people. So, but we went and we took classes, we got certified or partially certified, just enough so that we knew kind of like the safety protocols and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then when we did the scene, it was a pool that we were in, and they added a bunch of stuff to the water to make it like murky and look, you know, sort of like a lake. And I remember that whatever they put in the water did something to my hair, because, you know, my hair was like that very specific shade of red, and I was constantly getting it touched up, you know, because they have to touch it up throughout the filming of the movie because of continuity, right? So you can't have really like faded red hair one day when the previous shot you had really vibrant hair. So I was constantly getting my hair colored. And I remember we shot really late that night, and there was paint. I think they used paint or something in the water. And then we get out of the water and we get up on this ledge where like the cave is behind us. And that was just sort of a ledge with like a big giant blue screen. So we got up, but anyways, my whole point in saying about my hair is that I had to stay on set until like 2 or 3 o'clock that morning, because they had put something in the water that did something to my hair. And so I had to like get my hair redone. And I remember my hairdresser was like, what did they use in the water? You know, it's like a big thing. But yeah, so we got in that pool, we scuba dove. We dived, I don't know. And then we, you know, came out and sat up on that ledge. And I just remember it was really hard for me to get myself up on that ledge because the tank was so heavy, and, you know, it was hard to get up there, but I did, I guess, eventually. And that was just a giant blue screen, and they added all the cave stuff in post afterwards.
That makes sense, actually, because I guess just pulling from a memory back when I was in my prime, the kind of training of the scuba diving in the swimming pool sounds like the open water 1 qualification. So I guess a little factoid for people listening.
Yes. And then Nick and I, afterwards, when we were done with the movie, Nick and I went together to get the full certification, and I failed the test, and I am still not a diver. Like, I'm telling you, I belong on land. Okay.
Well, you didn't drown.
What's that?
At least you didn't drown.
You know, silver linings, Rhianna, silver linings.
So we've spoken quite a bit about the music in this movie, which, you know, personally, I love every single the side music videos, the montages, everything. But at the end of the film, it highlights a number of these from different settings, like roller skating, which, speaking about like how clumsy you were, probably wasn't.
I don't belong on wheels either. I don't belong underwater. I don't belong on wheels. Sorry, continue.
It's okay. So from roller skating to the graffiti rap, and do you have one of these sections that was the most fun to film?
The graffiti rap was great. That was really something. And I think I've told you guys before, the roller skating was just not a good situation for me. Couldn't roller skate. They strapped me to like a dolly to make it look like I was turning. It didn't look good. We didn't use it. So yeah, I loved the disco montage where we're like all in the band and we've got like our instruments. But I really loved, like I said, kind of the 70s look that we all did at the end. And if you watch that part of it, I'm like playing tambourine with Nick and I'm totally off beat. Like I'm not even like, I'm shaking the tambourine and it's like not even in the realm of when I should be shaking it. Again, not musically inclined. And I just remember Brian being like, Kate, you're in this entire shot because they're trying to get a close up of Nick. And I'm just like in his shot the entire time playing tambourine terribly. But again, Nick and I are very close. So maybe I just want to stand by him. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that was really fun. I think it's brilliant. The part with like, we're in the little, what is that called? Like we've got the canes and the top hats and the little outfits and we're doing the number with the monsters. I think that was a really brilliant move on Brian Levant's part. And I wish that we had more of that in it because I thought that was really, really funny.
That little part, I always compare it to a barbershop quartet and I loved it so much.
Oh, the barbershop quartet with the mustaches.
Yeah.
That was a fun day. That was a really fun day. We loved that one.
And just a quick little side note, we actually, when we were talking about Cursed Lake Monster, we all picked up that you seem to gravitate to stand naturally more towards Nick in a lot of the scenes. And I think it shows like that outside of it, like we know that you're friends with Nick and everything, but Daphne is supportive of Shaggy as well, which we kind of liked. It like brought it all together a bit better.
Yeah, I think that was a conscious choice, actually. I think it was a conscious choice to have, because you don't really see a lot of that relationship, I don't think, in the cartoons, at least in the originals, the ones that I watched the most of. And so I think that was kind of a conscious choice of like, let's make Daphne like love Shaggy and care about Shaggy and not just kind of ignore him the whole time. And that was important to me. But also, again, I love Nick to death. So I'm sure that had a little something to do with it. But yeah, that was a conscious choice on my part for sure. You know, there's the scene where they find Velma on the beach and she's got the warts and, you know, Daphne's kind of having a moment of, you know, because she feels bad for Shaggy. Like she wants this to work out for Shaggy. And, you know, she has that moment where she's looking at the warts and I'm kind of like, oh, it's like turf face. I'm like, it's fine. And then she turns away and I'm like looking at Fred and I'm like, what's on her hand? You know, it was little moments like that we tried to add. You know, Rhianna, you've worked with me for quite some time, so you know kind of my methodology with acting, and I think it's really important to develop those relationships in a film, no matter how small or insignificant they may seem. And I think Daphne and Shaggy is a good relationship to explore that people never really talk about.
I think we all agree there. And behind the scenes interviews on the DVD, we love watching them over and over again, especially with the Mystery Machine being so often in the background. So do you remember at point where these filmed?
You know, they had a EPK, it's called an EPK crew. It stands for Electronic Press Kit, on set most days doing behind the scenes stuff. Also, the cast was given, this is going to age me, but I don't know if you guys remember flip cams. Remember those? They were like little like video cameras. We were all given those by the studio and we were told like, okay, take videos, you know, behind the scenes stuff. And then they would take our flip cams and download whatever it was that we shot. But the interviews, I want to say that was in Malibu, because they mostly take place at night, right? Those behind the scenes interviews, or are they kind of all over the place?
A few of them are at night, but then I think the odd one, say like the Brian Levant one, it looks like it was filmed the same day as the graffiti rap scenes.
Yeah, I think that, you know, they had the crew on set with us. And I think whenever we had just a moment where we weren't doing anything, you know, they would try to kind of fit those interviews in. So they'd call me over, Nick over, Hayley, Robbie, whoever, and just try to get those interviews down pretty quickly. But as far as a specific memory of when or where, I couldn't tell you exactly. It was kind of all over the place.
So I guess speaking about the one like I've mentioned, involving Brian Levant, there's kind of a cool comparison there. I'm not sure if it ages me up or down when he compares you to the actress Lucille Ball. I guess what kind of is your opinion on that comparison overall?
The best compliment I've ever gotten in my life. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I was once compared. I love Lucille Ball. I grew up. She was a big reason I wanted to act. Most kids were watching cartoons and stuff, and I grew up watching I Love Lucy. I was obsessed with it. In fact, I just the other day in one of my classes, it's a class of kids like 10 to 13, and I was like, said something about I Love Lucy, and they were all like, what? And I was like, okay, stop. Homework for next week. Everybody has to come back having watched at least one episode of I Love Lucy, because she's just like the greatest comedic genius that the world has ever known. Like, she's just incredible. So to me, that was a huge compliment. And I think he's said that other times as well. I think he said it in print before. And that's the best compliment I could have ever received. So I love that.
That's fantastic. And maybe he'll reiterate that again, because I know that he's got a book coming out relatively soon. So I'm
interested. I'm really excited to read his book and see what all he has to say about that time, because those were really great times. And I still communicate with Brian. I love him. He's amazing. And I'm excited to see what he wrote in that book. He's had such an amazing career. It's going to be so interesting just to hear all of his stories.
I hope it's not too difficult to get over here in the UK. I'd imagine Amazon probably will have whatever we need on that.
Oh, I would
probably
think, yeah.
e-reader, even though I'm a bit too either young or old for them. Like, I'll find a way to make it work. But I guess more broadly about the film in general now, what is your favorite memory from working on Curse of the Lake Monster?
Honestly, it's such kind of a cop-out answer, but just spending that time with the four of us at that time. We were close, and we were just having so much fun. We were just kids doing what we love to do, and getting a really amazing opportunity. I think it's a special thing when you do. It's not often that you do a film and then you get to go back with all of the same cast and do another one. That's pretty rare. And to have that experience was just so cool for all of us to do it once and then be able to come back and do it again. And, we would all hang out in between the two movies. We'd hung out, and we all had such strong relationships at that point that, and getting to do it in LA was really cool. We loved being on location. We also really loved being in LA, and just getting to spend all that wonderful time together. And then, of course, working with some of the people that we got to work with was such a, as I mentioned earlier, was such a huge honor for us. And yeah, I wish there was one specific thing that I could say, this, but it really just the experience as a whole was a wonderful one.
That's great. And like you were saying, it's great that you got to not only do that once, but to go back and do it a second time. And I guess that leads on to my next question, which was, this was initially going to be a trilogy of films. There was supposed to be a third one set in the UK. And given the amount of, amazing people you got to work with for the second movie, is there any UK actors you would like to have worked with or met for the third?
Wouldn't Benedict Cumberbatch have been like an amazing villain?
Oh yeah,
he would have been amazing. I'm sure he was busy and booked at the time, but like he would have been so good. I was thinking about this question earlier, and like he would have been the best villain. We could have put him in like a handlebar mustache, and it would have been brilliant. I'm very sad that movie didn't get made. That was going to be a really fun movie. I wish that I could track down the script. I know I have it somewhere on some computer somewhere in my life. I've got to try to track that down because I would love to read it again. But yeah, it was going to be a really fun movie. I was going to get to ride horses, which is an athletic thing I actually am good at. Okay. So one athletic ability is what I'm counting at this point. I would have gotten to ride horses. I'd been taking my horseback riding lessons prior to, because I knew that was going to be a big part of the film. And yeah, it would have been so much fun. I'm still sad that did not happen.
We are too. We would love to have enjoyed these, like another one of these movies, because they are so good, and it's been so good to rewatch them recently again, like we were saying, for doing the reviews. And I guess we're moving on to the last couple of questions now, and that kind of is looking more into the coaching and everything you do. So you recently said on Instagram that in addition to the on-screen acting coaching, you're now offering voiceover coaching as well. What do you say was the main difference between the on-screen and voiceover performance?
Great question. So, I've kind of been doing voiceover coaching forever, but I often will get asked, hey, do you do voiceover coaching? I don't know. So I decided to make that kind of a unique featuring on the website. The biggest difference I'm going to say is that, when you're acting for television or film and you're on camera, you've got your face, you've got your environment, you've got all kinds of things to help you tell the story. But when you're just doing voiceover, you don't have your face, right? All you have is your voice. So you've got to find a way to really build that character, without one of your major tools as an actor, which is your face and your body language. So I think it's especially challenging to try to build a full and complete unique character using only your voice, and also to convey the emotions that need to be conveyed without your body or without your face. So that's, I think, the unique challenge with voice acting. So I love helping people with it, and I have great fun doing it.
Oh, that's exciting. I've always kind of wondered, the difference of voice acting compared to actual acting. I think voice acting would be a lot of fun, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. It's the auditions we do are great. And, and often you have more room to kind of play with a voiceover audition, because a lot of times it's an animated character or it's kind of an outlandish, character. And so it's really fun to work on those auditions, because you get to kind of play and have a little bit more freedom. And also I think too, people tend to be more open when auditioning for voice work, because they're not in their heads about what they're doing with their face. It kind of removes it makes it more challenging, but it also kind of makes it a little bit more freeing, because you don't have to worry about your physical body. You can just focus on your voice. And I think often when people aren't concerned about, like, do I look silly? That element is removed. And especially for kids, that really helps them kind of get out of themselves. So.
Right. Yeah. So then to kind of wrap this up, with your acting lessons and your coaching, where can people find information about that?
Yes. So you can find information at my website, www.katemeltoncoaching.com. Also Instagram at katemeltoncoaching.com. I have group classes for all ages. I do privates. I do audition coachings, pretty much whatever you need. Just hit me up and I got you. Anything acting related. So yes, you can find all that information on my website and on my Instagram.
And we will link all of those in the description below as well for anybody watching to go and follow them.
And thank you guys so much for having me. I love this podcast. I think what you guys are doing is so great. I think you're uniting a really specific fan base from all over the world. And I love to see that, because if there's one thing I've learned in my many years since doing the films, is how rabid the Scooby Doo fan base is, and how devoted and committed, that I still am getting WhatsApp messages every couple of days from a random person that I don't know saying that they love Daphne. So it's a very committed community. And I'm so grateful for all of the support that community has given me in my career. And I'm so happy that you guys are doing this. And I'm so happy Rhianna's on the podcast with you guys now.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, it's been absolutely incredible, and thank you so much for that, because that does mean the whole world to us. And I guess equally, responding to that, thank you so much for everything you're doing with not only the acting coaching, which is absolutely incredible, but I guess you were mentioning the Scooby community, just staying so active in the community even after all these years, because there's some things that there's some people that almost could forget things so easily, and it's really nice that you're still doing this. So that's absolutely perfect.
It's a big part of my life, and it's put me where I am today in a lot of ways. So I'm always going to be grateful for that, and I'm always going to be grateful for the people that care, for the people that have stood the test of time with me and with this film. So yeah, I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you so much. And I guess me personally as well, I'm very grateful to everyone listening to this interview right now and watching it, or however you're consuming this particular piece of content. So thank you so much for that. In addition to all of Kate's links in the description down below, you can find Rhianna's Instagram in the description, and a link to Smash's YouTube channel, Instagram, and everything that Smash is doing. at the moment. So huge thank you to everyone for listening. Please make sure to check out the description. And yeah, this wraps up another interview on the JayBee and Milly channel. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.